So there has been several people who are displaced by the recent disaster in Maiduguri, Borno State. Okay, and the government of President Tinubu has sent some relief stuffs to them. I would like you to watch this video. You'll be shocked at the kind of expose that will be made and revelations that you get to know about in this video concerning this flood and the what the government is trying to do about it. Okay, so let me allow you to watch this.
Urged yesterday that the Nigerian Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and the leadership of the Dangote refinery may be making progress in their 3-week negotiations on in-country fuel supply, with the national oil company now requesting to deploy its permanent monitoring team at the facility as part of the deal between the two entities. Also, it was learnt that the president of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has now the refined petrol from his 650,000 barrels per day refinery in Nigerian currency, the Naira, as part of the agreements reached with the NNPCL. Vice President, Oil and Gas, Dangote Industries Limited, Devakuma Edwin, disclosed this during an hosted by Nairametrics and monitored by This Day. Edwin at the session discussed the progress made by the refinery in the production of premium motor PMS, commonly known as petrol, stressing that PCL had informed the management of Dangote Group of its intention a team of 6 to 10 people permanently at the $20 billion refinery. NPC told the management of the refinery that the team would be overseeing the and buying back the products. The national oil would be supplying the crude. He added that the request aligns with the NNPCL's aim to closely monitor the process, ensuring consistent crude supply and efficient processing while securing steady flow of PMS for the country. Good to hear that we now have some. Dr. Abati, your take on this story?
Okay, a number of issues here. The first issue is Edwin Devakuma, the vice president of Dangote refinery, saying that, well, part of the ongoing negotiations with the NMD, PC Limited is now saying they will station 6 to 10 people, at the refinery. Don't forget that this is not new about that. We have a regulatory agency that is called the downstream and the midstream and downstream regulatory agency. Before the PIA, we used to have the DPR. That's why I say there is nothing new. We used to have the DPR, at the old refineries that stopped working 28 years ago and have been undergoing, turnaround, appear endless, to the consternation of us. So, if the DPR, now known as Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency, says it wants to have a desk, there's no problem with that. It follows logic. After all, the Dangote refinery is located export-free zone, export trade-free zone, in Lagos State. So there are a number of other stakeholders. You have customs, you can have regulators who will be there for the purpose of transparency. What would the NMDPRA be doing there? NMDPRA will be looking at, the quality of crude that is received, the processing, the quality that is taken to the market, the cost, will be monitoring the cost and all of that. However, Nigerians have in all these agencies. Was it not this NMDPRA, the word used, we read that PC, but there's a regulatory agency there. We should identify the regulatory agency. Were they not the ones of old, of DPR, who did not keep proper record? Expectation is that even as they say they want to have a desk, that there will be transparency, there will be accountability, and we will not have a new regime of corruption as we had in. That's the first issue. The second issue, raised by Mr. Edwin Kuma, ongoing negotiations. What the minister told us is that by October 1, they will have fixed the pricing system. They need to work out a commercial framework and the delivery system. NNPC, in this regard, being monopoly involved in this, but NNPC has issued a statement saying that they are now going to transact business, willing buyer, willing seller, but they have to work out the commercial framework. How much crude will NNPC Limited supply, at what price? All of them. What Minister of State Petroleum had talked about October 1. Is it by October 1 that they will conclude the negotiations, or is it by October 1 that they will start the negotiations? Now, that is important. The commercial in that tech space, marketers, only about 3% of them are patronizing Dangote. In one report that I read, he said, look, this is a clear indication of sabotage, that they don't want this with Dangote refinery. Hence, they are come to export most of what they produce. That they have the capacity to produce up to 50 liters of refined petrol on a daily basis to meet domestic demand. But if you have the traders boycotting the Dangote refinery, the question is why? He says they don't get the supply of crude from NNPC Limited, not yet. So they are forced to buy from abroad. So what it means is that at the end of the day, sell at international commercial rate. Is what NNPC Limited said last Saturday. A statement by Femi Shoneye that it's a willing buyer, willing seller framework. However, the question is, government has a responsibility to resolve all of these issues, and we keep making the point that the Nigerian government has a responsibility in the environment. Dangote refinery says sell at a loss. I don't know about that. If they are loss and not make profit, then of course the traders, why would they have their product? So that's did not explain.
All right, so first of October seems like a good day to start that, because that's independent. Might be Nigerians will get independence from the constant fuel and PMS scarcity challenges that we've had so far. Dangote has said, Alhaji Aliko Dangote has said that, well, his company has said that they are willing to even sell in Naira and at the risk of making a loss, because by the time they get crude from NNPCL, purchase from Naira and then sell back in Naira, by that time the FX fluctuations might have affected prices and profits. But let's see how this will work out. We still wait to see those grey areas made clearer. But right now we need to head on to Maiduguri. More than 30 people have died and 148,000 displaced in floods in Maiduguri, Borno State. Thousands of residents are at risk of acute hunger and waterborne diseases as they remain trapped or missing 3 days after the floods. Rescue efforts by the state government and the military have been hampered by lack of equipment and the inaccessibility of some of the areas. Arise correspondent Ferdinand Duroha reports.
This is the popular Lagos Bridge in Maiduguri. It links the city center to towns bordering the capital. Half of it has been submerged and commuters are forced to share the remaining lane. There are also visible cracks which raise questions about the integrity of the bridge while still in use. The heavy flow of traffic is caused by residents who are moving to internally displaced camps on the other side. Heavy rains have caused the Alao Dam to overflow and break its banks, leading to flooding as much as the capital has never witnessed in decades. The State Emergency Response Agency has been coordinating the rescue alongside the military deployed to assist in the emergency. The flood has left a large part of the state capital and its environs without electricity, and thousands risk infection due to water contamination. Hospitals were also affected. The University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital is one of the largest in West Africa, with its capacity of over 1,300 beds. But it also houses one of the most reputable cancer centers in the world. However, like its neighbors in Maiduguri town, it is not spared from the destruction of the flood. The chief medical director tells us of the damage.
I think the first concern we had is about the patients. We knew that the patient wards are downstairs. All the laboratories are downstairs. So the first emergency evacuation we did was all patients that can move out, we discharge them. And those that cannot move, we have to all take them upstairs to a higher level so that the water cannot affect them. And also about the patients that are coming in, people that are coming in, it's difficult to stop anybody from coming in because the gates are wide open, water is coming, rushing into the hospital, so we cannot even talk. We have our own internal staff quarters that is housing about 250 families. So all the staff quarters were also taken over by water, so we have to think of, as much as we're planning for the patients, evacuating the patients, we have to be working on how to evacuate the staff also to get a safe place upstairs. So everything that we do is moving patients from ground floor to upstairs to look at emergency things that can come alone, because once there is this type of flooding, electricity is off.
Like most parts of the city, the hospital is without power and has operated with alternative energy, particularly solar. It takes us on a brief tour to see things for ourselves.
Yeah, this is the postnatal ward at the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. Postnatal means this is where after delivery mothers are kept, and you can see it. Even despite the water level have gone down, the beds are empty. We have to evacuate the patients upstairs, and you can see it's still waterlogged. This is the radiology department, and is primarily for diagnosis of diseases, where we have a CT scan, MRI machine, mammography machine, X-ray machines, fluoroscopy machines. These are all expensive equipments, and you can see it's all flooded. And
with thousands devastated due to the flooding and at risk of infection, cleanup exercise has begun so services can resume. Our next point of call was the Bakassi internally displaced camp. Thousands of persons evacuated from flooded areas have besieged the camp. Officials are having a difficult time controlling the people.
Yeah, this is the Bakassi camp that houses about 14,472 IDPs that were affected by the flood disaster. We have about a 400 housing unit that was earlier built, but as a result of the earlier insurgency of Boko Haram, the houses were not completed. They were formerly used as IDP camps for Boko Haram victims that have come from faraway local governments that took refuge. If you can recall, the government has closed down all the camps before 2019. And now, unfortunately, another disaster happened, and we had to use this place to house the affected persons that were affected by the flood.
Adamu and his family are lucky to escape. They were asleep when the house began filling with water in the early hours of Tuesday.
I was fast asleep when my wife woke me up and telling me that she had some people talking outside our house. So when I went out, I found out so many people trying to bring some of their belongings out from their house. And what I suddenly found out is when I moved a bit further, I find a lot of people rushing out from their houses because of the flood.
Meanwhile, governors from neighboring states have been visiting to show their sympathy. At the moment, operations are still ongoing, with many still stranded. Thousands of persons here, many of them women and children. They have lost their homes and livelihoods. But sadly, many of them were victims of the Boko Haram insurgency and were just beginning to get their lives together. Now, they have been thrown back into IDP camps because of the disaster. Ferdinand Duroher, reporting from Maiduguri for Arise News.
Thank you very much, Ferdinand, for that report. Ferdinand will be joining us very shortly. He's on ground, and he'll be, one of our correspondents actually will be joining us very shortly. But before then, Dr. Abati, really sad to just see the number of people who are now displaced, internally displaced as a result of the floods, and even the institutions like the hospitals also being overrun by floods and the impact of that? A lot of calls have gone out to, to respond to this emergency and ensure that monies are spent to rehabilitate the people and restore at least communities in Maiduguri as soon as possible.
Okay, Kwa State has a responsibility to help these people. Because as we were trying to establish in a conversation yesterday on this same program, this has been caused more, not by natural causes. This is not necessarily an act of God. This is an act of negligence on the part of the Nigerian state and relevant authorities. And that's why we were arguing yesterday that there must be proper investigation. The people who have caused this should be brought to book. We were told that between 2023 and 2024, over 171 million naira was spent, supposedly, for the rehabilitation of the Alau Dam. Nobody did what they should do. And now houses have been submerged, facilities have been disrupted, over 20,000 people have been displaced, lives have been lost, a lot of problems. So the investigation is important. The need to address negligence in this particular case is important.
All right, so we have our correspondent now joining us from Maiduguri for updates on the flooding situation in Maiduguri, Borno State. Our correspondent, Sunny Adamu, joins us. Good morning, Sunny, and thank you so much for joining us. So tell us, what is the current situation of things in Maiduguri? Is the death toll still rising?
Good morning, all. And the actual situation is that, search and rescue operation is still ongoing. As you can see behind me is one of the major highways that was devastated by the flood waters. As you can see, people are trying to come out. These people that you see behind me coming, they are trapped for 2 to 3 days.
So, as you have heard, these people that have been displaced to the ongoing crisis and disaster in Maiduguri, they really need government's effort, especially at this particular trying time, because this is the time that they need to, get the necessary assistance that they require. It's not easy surviving in these harsh times in Nigeria. Not talk more of, anyone, being a victim of any disaster such as this. So we commiserate with them and we ask the relevant agencies in Nigeria to do the needful and help these families to ameliorate their plight. Okay, so do drop your views and opinions down below in the comment section. Also, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to turn on your post notification icon.